especially because I'm just for entertainment purposes only. I don't know why people don't get notifications. People that subscribe to my YouTube say they're not getting those. So I really don't know why. You know, it's a million other oracles on this platform, but let me let my people know. And if you're not signed up to my website, you can sign up to be on my website to get notifications when I go live as well. I forget sometimes. I'm not perfect, y'all. But most of the time I do not. Okay. Notification was sent. You see? So that's what I do on my website to let people know when I'm live. This is about to get juicy. I can feel it. Okay. How y'all doing? What's up, Dr. Dog Matter? I see you. I think that was you that popped up. I wish I knew how to use this better. I like to be honest with y'all. I don't know how to use TikTok. All I know how to do is go live. I have no idea how I ended up with almost 15,000 people following me on here because I don't know how to use this shit. People be saying shit like click my hand and this will pop up and this sticker pop up. So if anybody watching me will catch this and you can tell me how to use TikTok, let me know. Okay. So I can use this to the fullest capacity. So first of all, let me say this. We are in the middle of the intergalactic war. If you're somebody that you're not into conspiracy theories, I'm gonna bore the fuck out of you. So you can leave. Okay? But if you're somebody and you into it, stick around. So let me start off with a little story. All right. First of all, the first time I had my first experience, I was 5 years old. Saw it clear as day. Back then, I didn't even know what it was. Now, I was somebody who loved science. So at the age of 5, I would go outside with a water hose and I would spray the water hose to make a rainbow in the sky so that I could see the color indigo. I was obsessed with the color indigo. It didn't even know words for me to describe how obsessed I was with the color indigo. And I didn't know why. Okay. All I knew was I was going through a lot of shit as a kid, and that comforted me. So I would do this pretty much every day the sun was shining. I'm outside doing this. I was the kid who would go off into the woods by myself and be there for hours. That was me. My whole childhood, this is what I've been doing. When people talk about hugging trees and indigo and the third, all of that, like I've been like this my entire life. So I got bullied and picked on a lot. Okay, I wasn't doing what the other kids was doing. Um, so one night I'm outside and it was a lady next door that had raspberries and blackberries in her backyard. So I would go over there and get them and eat them. Um, 80s kid, Gen X shit, this type of shit we did. And that night, I could feel something telling me to turn around and look. And so I turned around and I looked, and what I thought was a star started moving, and it was getting closer and closer to me. This is when I first realized that I was telepathic. I did not know what telepathy was at the time, but I could hear communication from the ship through the way the lights was changing on the ship. It had a meaning to me. And I cried. I wasn't scared. I cried because it was the first time something made sense to me. Because this world did not make sense to me. When I would see people fighting, it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, why? Like, what is it that make us want to harm each other? It was just weird to me. So I knew that something was different about me. I was a kid that never wanted to get into a fight. Never wanted to get into a fight. When I did, I like I was whooping people ass. I didn't even know how to fight. But if you fucked with me, it was going down. I knew how to throw hands, but I was afraid to because I was afraid of hurting somebody. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like, I don't know. It was just I was different. And I knew violence was never the answer, but sometimes it was necessary, especially growing up in the hood. You had to protect yourself, right? But the ship told me something that never left me. After that happened to me, this is when I started seeing fairies a lot. Like, I would catch lightning bugs and put them in a jar. And when I would sit the jar down on the porch, I would see what looked like lightning bugs, but they were a lot faster flying around the jar. And I, I didn't know what it was until I started dreaming about them. They started coming in my dreams. And this is why I spent so much time in the woods. It all makes sense to me now that I know what I know. But they were protecting me. And because of the amount of trauma that I was experiencing, my brain had fragmented. So this is why MK Ultra exposed us all to trauma, because it causes the brain to compartmentalize. So you have other versions of you and personas that are created from these experiences. So this is why Nickelodeon, Disney, all of the shit that we was watching had embedded subliminals that was based around fracturing consciousness. And so this went on probably up until the age of 10 or 11, and then the dreams stopped. But the dreams were so real. Like, they would take honeysuckles. I don't know if y'all remember those, but we would pull them out the bush and suck the nectar out of it. But they would make like this drink with it, and I would drink it. Like, we the whole time I was asleep, I was with them, and they were very mischievous. I wouldn't say that they ever was trying to hurt me, but they were mischievous. They like to play a lot, kind of like toddlers. You know what I'm saying? They like to play a lot. So I knew something was different about me at that point. And hey, Will, Ashe, I see you. Shout out to everybody in the chat too. Yeah. Y'all doing the damn thing. So I'm finna just allow this to move through to me. Because I want you to know, if you have similar experiences with the supernatural, it does not mean that something is wrong with you. You're just different. Okay, you're probably a very old soul and probably are a star seed. Now, all the experiences were not positive like that. I would have a witch ride my back. Some call a boo hag. Some call him a haint. A lot of these things would happen. Yes, trauma can cause the dreams to stop. Absolutely. Getting bullied is a 3D Matrix prison program. So children, depending on what they're going through at home, what happens is you become a targeted individual at a very early age. So even the purpose of bullying is also to fracture the consciousness, to keep you from being able to be connected to your own soul's energy. This is why we know, like, kids, as innocent as they are, like, they be in beast mode when it comes to bullying and stuff. And so this was something, like, I was aware of this even as a kid, and I was like, something wrong with these kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I never took it personal. I felt like something was wrong with them, because babies not born hating nobody. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it was like. But that's a 3D Matrix prison program for bullying to happen in childhood. Because if you say anything about the supernatural as a child, you automatically getting picked on. You finna get checked. You finna get roasted like the entire time. That if that is a universal truth across the globe, that means that that's a 3D Matrix prison program that has been put in place, coded into the simulation of our reality. And the purpose of that is to make you not believe in anything that's outside of the quote unquote norm. Even though every cartoon, Rainbow Bright, Strawberry Shortcake, Care Bears, the Smurfs, like Scooby Doo, like every cartoon, there was always this mystical supernatural element to it, but it was also it was truths hidden in there, right? So it's like, it's crazy. It's like, okay, you acting like I'm crazy, but you watch the same cartoons I watch. I'm having real experiences. So, this is how the 3D Matrix prison planet operates. So this went on when I got into my teen years. I continued to see UFOs, and I'm not the only one in my family. A lot of times, this has a lot to do with your ancestral connection. So, certain ancestral connections, you're assigned certain cosmic elders, and these cosmic elders watch over you throughout your lifetime, but they can't break your they can't really interfere with your journey. They're more so watchers. They're more so observers. Now, there are rare occasions where they will step in. One of those rare occasions for me was I had a car accident. Somebody rear-ended me, and we were going off the edge of the street over a bridge off into the embankment, which was real deep, all concrete. When we got right before we got hit, I heard loud and clear, "You're about to get hit. Brace yourself." So me and the other person in the car with me, we braced ourselves because I told her, I literally took my hand, grabbed her chest, held her down in the seat to brace her. And so it was almost like it was happening in slow motion. We got hit, the car was sliding to the edge. It was nothing to really stop us from going over the embankment because the railing was real small and short. So I was preparing to like leave here at that point. I had made peace with it. But when we got to the edge, the car hit something that wasn't there and it stopped us from going off the embankment. The lady that hit us was still behind us at this point. She was freaking out because she thought we was going over into the embankment. While all of that was happening, I felt large hands holding me down in the seat. After it all happened, when the police and the ambulance got there, they asked us what stopped us from going off the edge. And I was like, I don't know. They was like, "Are you sure it wasn't another car in front of you?" And they looking over into the embankment to see was it another car in front of me that had went over, but it wasn't. And so when we got put in the ambulance, the EMT was like, I don't know who you are, but y'all had somebody watching over y'all. And just to hear that, it kind of like validated what I felt. And I was like, I wasn't tripping. I did feel that. That actually happened. So that began my journey of going through a spiritual awakening. Now, my spiritual awakening really started in 2006. It was just me remembering the things that I had already knew as a child and as a soul before I incarnated into this incarnation into a body. So fast forward, I'm going through the awakening. I start having a lot of dreams about things that were going to happen before it happened. Twice, me and my daughter both saw UFOs, and it was broad daylight this particular time. I got ready to record it with my phone, and when I got ready to record it with my phone froze up. It was like, don't do that. Don't record us. This was for you. So I don't have that footage. The second time it happened, I did record it. I uploaded it to my old YouTube channel. After it finished processing, when I went back and watched it, the video just turned into a black screen. It was no way I could have uploaded a image, a all black image. So I realized that it's not always for everybody else. Sometimes those experiences are just for you. Hey sis, a lot of my sacred sisters in here tonight. Sometimes it's just for you. So this when I started doing research. I started listening to a lot of different radio shows and podcasts. I started listening to Coast because I wanted to figure out what was going on and why I was having these experiences and what it meant. 2019, I learned about the Mayan calendar. And when I learned about the Mayan calendar, I learned about the way that they calculated time was based on lunar timing. And a 9-year Mayan prophecy was created that said a lot of people misinterpreted and said the time was going to end, that the world was going to end. But that's not what it meant. It meant that we were moving into a new galactic age. So the clock basically was reset, Ashe. So when the clock was reset, this is when we saw the Saturn Jupiter conjunction, and we could walk outside and we could see Saturn with our eyes. I don't know if y'all remember that, but like, because COVID made us forget a lot of shit, but that happened right before the pandemic. Well, 16 years ago, I saw the three viruses that we were going to be dealing with, the three main ones. And I did upload that video a few days ago. That video has been blocked in almost every country on YouTube. So you can only watch that video here and on my Patreon. So this just shows the accuracy of someone who is truly a psychic, clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient, all of the clairs. I can even smell and taste food in my dreams now. So like we're receiving upgrades. And there are certain things that you do day to day that's either going to slow down your capacity to operate in your gifts, or it's going to speed it up. Of course, I'm psycho with this shit. So every day I'm doing things that's going to help me to be able to walk in my spiritual power. Greetings. So what ended up happening was I learned about the intergalactic war through studying the Mayan prophecies. So I went to Arizona and spent some time in Sedona up in the mountains under the full moon. Ships was like out like crazy. As soon as our plane landed, a ship followed us from the airport to the Airbnb. I did record that one. Still have it in my phone. I have not shared it with anybody. Except of course my family. I mean, they was in the car with me, they saw it. Telepathically, the communication was, we've been assigned to you. So in 2020, right before the lockdowns happened, I had a dream that a mothership was hovering above Earth and smaller ships started coming out of it. The ship was made out of plasma, so it was able to come down through the ceiling into my house. And when I went into the kitchen, it was two men, what we would say darker people, and they had afros. And he said, we've been trying to send messages to you, and we finally could communicate with you. And I was like, well, why did it take so long? And it was like, because the frequency of your mind was too low. So we could not communicate with you. What I can say about that conversation here was that they told me to make sure that I create an inner sanctuary inside of my own self, and to make sure that I go there often. He said that in order for you to be whole and get rid of the fragmentation, you're going to have to build this inner sanctuary to go to, so that you can be go through a soul retrieval, so that the fragments of you that have been scattered can come back together. So I created the inner sanctuary, and I actually turned it into a meditation, and I think that's on my YouTube channel. Started going there often. After about 3 weeks of going to the inner sanctuary, he also told me to pay attention to the arcs. And he told me to pay attention to a deity whose name begins with an A. But he didn't tell me who it was. He was like, because I'm not going to do the work for you. You got to do the work. Because that would violate our contract. You do have free will. So he couldn't tell me everything just straight out. So after he told me that, 2 or 3 weeks later, I did everything that he had been telling me to do. And this is when I started learning about arcs. This is when I learned that the Ark of the Covenant is actually inside of our brain. It is the sacred geometry within the brain. And I did a deep dive about that at the time. And then with the inner sanctuary part about the inner child healing, a lot of abandonment wounds that I had started to fade away. You know, and things that used to really bother me didn't bother. I wasn't emotionally triggered anymore around certain subjects. So like now I can talk about being molested and it don't make me sad. You know what I'm saying? Like the emotional charge attached to the stories neutralized. That's how you know when you're really healing your inner child and you're becoming whole, you're integrating with your shadow self, is that those stories lose their power over your emotions. So as this was happening, he came back to me a few more times, and the other younger guy that was with him would never tell me his name, because whenever you have a experience with spirits or lucid dreams, astral travel, whatever it may be, it's always a beneficial thing to ask them for their name straight up front. You want it because they have to declare who they are. They can't just be in your space, in your biofield, and not tell you who they are. When you know this, you can exercise this sovereignty. When you don't know this, then that's when you can end up in situation where spirits is just messing with you. You know what I'm saying? Um, he would never tell me his name, but he was, and I was like, "Why don't you tell me your name?" And he was like, "My name is a bunch of numbers." And I was like, "That's weird." Like, okay, but the elder told me his name. He was like, his name, not a bunch of numbers. So I took those numbers that he gave me and started researching them and found that those numbers were assigned to a certain galaxy of stars. So that galaxy of stars, the trippy part about this was that galaxy of stars is surrounding Orion. And I was like, damn. So stars, the celestial bodies, some of them are actually ascended masters, and they're plasma beings, and they can take on form to come to you and bring messages to you. But ultimately, this is what they do and what they are. But that is also a mirror to what's inside of us on a neurological level, because the neural network of the mind looks exactly like space, the galaxies, the cosmos, the stars, as within, so without. So these things are just mirrored images of what's inside of us as well. Um, so after that experience happened, the second experience was they came to me with a briefcase, and they opened the briefcase and showed me a stone that was inside the briefcase. It was a crystal I had never seen before. And I asked him if I could have it, and he was like, he closed the briefcase. He was like, absolutely not. And I was like, well, why why you show it to me? And he was like, you will know later. So I started researching that stone when I was a Hebrew Israelite, and I was a Hebrew Israelite for a few years, like real dedicated Hebrew Israelite for a few years. You know, a lot of us go through these stages in our journey, and nothing, like everything matters, everything counts, you know what I'm saying? So I remember the breastplate. You know, you hear about the breastplate, and so certain crystals have a resonance with certain star systems. And so once I figured that out, I finally found the crystal that he showed me. It almost took a year for me to find this crystal. And this is not a crystal that you can just Google and look up and find. I literally had to conjure a frequency where I was able to connect with this crystal and make it come into my reality, into my awareness. And the way that I did it was through Vedic astrology. So I started studying Vedic astrology, my particular Vedic astrology, and that's what led me to finding the crystal. This shit blew my mind. I was just like, this is the most amazing shit that, you know, we as humans, sometimes we can feel small because we're in these bodies, but just to know that we're so much more than this. And so what ended up happening was, after I found that stone, things did start to happen in my life just like they said that it would. Telepathy got so strong to the point where I don't need caller ID anymore. My phone can ring 50 times and I know exactly who calling me and when, but all the rings sound the same. Like a lot of my gifts got really strong once I connected with the stone that was connected with my soul. The second thing that they wanted me to learn was my galactic signature. Every human being with a soul has a galactic signature. This is a specific frequency that you operate within. And I taught classes on this and did master classes on this. So for those of you who've been new me for a while, you already know and you learn this stuff about yourself. It's like a video game. It's certain pieces to the puzzle that you put together that up levels your power. It up levels your life force, your capacity, right? So once I was able to do that, the next thing that I learned after learning my galactic signature, Vedic astrology, and the stones that was connected to me, then I learned that my children inherited a lot of the gifts that I have. But it is a certain you have to heal generational trauma for your children to be able to be their whole selves and be authentic. So after that happened, it was just one thing after the other that connected the dots. So then I learned about the intergalactic war because I catch Mandela effects as they're happening. So when the what is the vehicle called, Ford? Ford did not have a pig's tail in the F. It was just a line in the F of Ford. It turned into a pig's tail. When I first seen it, I was like, what the hell is that? Looked it up. Of course, there's nothing saying that they did a logo change or anything like that. So this is when I really started to see the Mandela effects or timeline shifts. Now they happen for multiple reasons, but they're timeline shifts, okay? Oh, let me add a moderator in here. Sis, I'm gonna add you as a moderator, okay? Because I don't want nobody in here with no low frequency. And if you see anything, block them. Okay. So the timeline shifts happen when the collective consciousness is shifting within us. Now, some of this is because of the technology and the timeline manipulation that they're doing to reprogram the simulated reality so that we don't step into our power, so that we aren't able to stop the magic and the spell casting that has been used against us. Okay, that's the whole purpose in Project Looking Glass. That's the whole purpose in the Majestic 13. If you don't know what this is, you can just look it up when we finish. Um, so what's been happening is that the reason why we don't see fairies and stuff, and a lot of other things that used to exist, dragons and things like that, is because humanity started to go down into a lower frequency. And so those beings, of course, they're not vibrating within our visible light spectrum. It can only be experienced through the third eye, and the third eye see beyond the light spectrum of the two eyes, which is really, really small, but they still exist. They're just vibrating different, so we don't notice them. And it's no different than when atoms vibrate different, it changes the way something materializes. Um, so with the intergalactic war, let me get to the point that I wanted to make. So recently, there was a volcano erupting, and during this volcano eruption, people were watching it on live. It was a laser beam that shot down into the volcano, and a UFO flew out of the volcano. When I watched the video and I connected with it telepathically, I got a whole storyline as to what was going on. So there are certain factions um who are here, and their main purpose is to keep us as a food source, energetically, emotionally, and soul harvesting. But there is another faction that is here to assist us in our journey. They can't violate free will, but they're here to assist us. So that's, if y'all saw that video, and you can look for it and look it up, that's what was happening. That laser beam was intended to destroy that ship, but that ship was able to dodge it and it flew away. Thank you, sis. And it flew away. Um, so when the lockdowns happen, and it's only so much of this that I can say here, and y'all just have to go to my Patreon if you want the rest of the details. But when the lockdowns happened, what was happening was, in order for the so-called rulers on the planet to be able to get ahead of the intergalactic warfare, they had to do a reset. And this is not the first time. We did a reset after Atlantis. We did a reset after Lemuria. We did a reset after Mu. We did a reset in between the dynasties of ancient Kemet. We did a reset after Mesopotamia. We did a reset after um, the Sumerian tablets. We did a reset um, um, with Alexandria, the library. That was a reset. Tartarian society. That was a reset. The mud flood. That was a reset. The Cabbage Patch Kids. That was a reset. So like we go through these resets on planet Earth. Even with the dinosaurs being here, we went through a reset. So when we go through it, we're living through a reset right now. And a lot of us, our souls are here to remember who we are and to reclaim the power that was taken away from us. And so the intergalactic war is having a manifestation on the DNA. The DNA is going through a metamorphosis. So the trauma that they were hoping would compartmentalize us and kind of cause a collective MK Ultra. All of this is just entertainment. None of this is true. You know what I'm saying? I'm entertaining y'all right now. But what happened was, it started to do something that they could not predict. It started to create new strands of DNA. It's starting to change the telomeres on the end of our DNA, which is what dictates how long we live. Because we used to live for a real long time. Oxygen levels were really high. Most of the mountains that we see are either giants or petrified trees. This is why they look like tree stumps or giants. A lot of the Himalayan salt is the tissues and ligaments of giants. And you can look at it. I mean, it's clear to see. So now that we're coming into this higher consciousness and going through this awakening, with the cellular changes that are happening, chronic illness is like the only way that they have figured out to try to offset these activations that are occurring. We are a group of people that have been prophesied about by every indigenous tribe on this planet. They knew we were coming here. They knew that souls who have a greater purpose were coming here. And so in order for them to get ahead of that, they had to do the lockdowns so that they could reset everything, have the meetings. A lot of the motherships that we're seeing coming here, the ships that we're seeing over top of in Rome, the Catholic Church, there were ships seen there. There were ships like seen at the White House. There were like all of the important places where these big decisions happen. We have all of these sightings that was occurring. It's because they was having meetings and they were restructuring contracts and agreements, basically exchanging information from the DNA, because the DNA is a code. It is a code that holds your divine spark. It's a code that holds the flame. This is why Hebrew letters, if you shine light on Hebrew letters, it creates almost like a hologram from shining light at a certain angle onto the Hebrew letters. So like they've been new about this. You know, you got Enki and Enlil, and you know, it was a whole lot of genetic shit going on with them. That story was retold as Cain and Abel in the Bible. And then you got Solomon, and Solomon was figuring out how to use sigils to control demons. That simply means Solomon, that's soul, and the moon combined together in oneness. That's masculine and feminine being in balance with one another. This is why relationships is so difficult right now on a spiritual level. Is because if we get on one accord within our relationships, like it's not much they'll be able to do. So, relationships, a lot of us don't know this because we this has been erased from our minds, but relationships between two people is actually the highest form of alchemy. It's not turning base metal to gold. It's two people being able to come together, and they both have their own trauma. They both have their own baggage. They both have fucked up love attachment. They probably got insecurities. They probably feel inadequate. The patriarchy was created to make men emotionally devolve, so that their nervous systems would not be able to handle being in any type of intense emotions. Intense emotions is supposed to be used for transmutation, but they program men to feel uncomfortable with a woman, especially when she's having intense emotions. And literally, most men, it fries their circuits. It's kind of like a robot, and you throw water on it, and it just start beep bop beep bop beep bop beep bop. That's like what be happening inside of them. I can get into the neuroscience of that, but I've done that in my other videos, so y'all can go and check that out when this is over. But relationships is the highest form of alchemy. So just imagine if we were operating in balance in relationships, then our inner demons would not control us. We would be in control of them. And we would not pass down generational trauma because we would already know how to be masters over those demons. Demons, yes, that is a lower aspect of human nature. That is something that is usually attached to the lower chakras, but they can also be used as servitors. They can be used in service to you versus to create harm to you and others. A great example of this would be Oya, the goddess of storms. There is a moment where that energy can be seen as demonic because it's chaotic, but the feminine is also chaotic energy. There's a time for everything. Mother Nature, sometimes the volcano erupts. It's the volcano not being demonic. This is just a process of transmutation. This is a process of rebirth. Most of the beautiful islands that we love and enjoy and go to vacations on was created through chaos, through volcanoes. This is why there's a goddess associated with volcanoes. There's a goddess associated with the ocean, a goddess associated with the rivers, the sweet waters, a goddess associated with storms, Neters and Neterus, that literally means forces of nature, feminine in nature or masculine in nature, and some are both, right? Um, so so the Nomos, the doggone tribe, they talked about us not being from here and coming from another star system. And so coming from another star system, when you come here, what you're doing is you're descending into hell. Earth, the frequency of Earth is dense. It's more dense than what we experienced before we came into a human body. So birth is a trauma in itself. The way that most births happen is traumatic. A lot of us don't have children intentionally. And a lot of us don't heal ourselves before we have children. This is social engineering. This is by design to keep us passing on trauma. But when you know how to be an alchemist and transmute energy, now that becomes an opportunity for you. You see what I'm saying? It's not something to see as bad. Get that out of your mind. Like, there is no bad, there is no good. It's either something that's beneficial or it's not, or it's neutral. Everything in this world. Because the polarity that exists in this world is what's keeping us divided, and it's what's draining our power. So a lot of the things that we see happening in the world right now are happening as a result of these lockdowns. The lockdowns was a galactic timeout. It was pre-programmed. I had already predicted that it was going to happen. It was pre-programmed for us to experience that in this simulation, to give us time to think, to give us time to be still, to give us time to see that something was not right, that something was off with the simulator reality. It gave us time to be around people that we live with more. So what it did was it broke the illusion. The veil came down. No one was going to temples. No one was going to churches. No one was, going and worshiping. There weren't any games, no soccer, no basketball. Like all of that shit was shut down. It was one of the best things that could have ever happened to us. And it was necessary because within the Milky Way galaxy, we're the babies, right? We're the babies. The higher consciousness beings that are interdimensional, they're not here in human form. The human body itself is like a cage, okay? It's like a cage because our soul is so much bigger than this human body. It's just an avatar, it's just a vehicle for us to drive to go through this thing called life, okay? So you're welcome. So the reason why we're seeing so much stuff happening around DNA and the DNA being encoded differently and changed, they call it the CRISPR-9 technology. This happened in Samaria. Like it's not new. This happened in ancient Kemet. Like I said, these are these resets that are occurring. One of the most accurate things that I watched not too long ago was Black Lightning. And yeah, it was more dramatic because Hollywood had to put his little twist on it. But that's really what's happening. And they see these mutations and these changes happening in the DNA, and they're not telling us about it. But like if you know, you know. You don't need them to publish a paper to tell you. You can feel something changing within you. So this is why with the food pyramids and everything that's happening with the food, like they're trying to offset this, but it's inevitable for us to finally step into our whole authentic selves. And proof of that is this. So during the lockdowns, another thing that a lot of us experienced with that time that we had that we didn't have before, a lot of us needed to not be able to go to work for a little while. A lot of people ended up working from home. Now, it came with its own difficulties. A lot of kids end up having to be homeschooled. Yes, it was challenging, it was difficult, but it was an initiation. It was a collective initiation into a higher frequency. It was necessary. Okay. Now, when we did this when I was channeling. Y'all can go back and watch my videos to, learn more about this. Just go back years and you'll just see the evolution of everything. But when this was happening and they were having their meetings, fast forward to 2022, the Queen had the Commonwealth Games. And then the Commonwealth Games, you saw this Grim Reaper with a machete or whatever in her hand. It was a lot of babies and children and hospital beds around her, a lot of nurses. It was a bull, which you could say is Baal or you could say is Apis, just depending on which pantheon you want to compare it to. In this opening ceremony, they were using a crystal, and it was a black woman holding the crystal to tame the bull in the opening ceremony. At the Jubilee Games in the opening, usually she would have a large diamond or a large ruby or a large emerald, and they would bring it to her sitting on a pillow. And these are ritualistic ceremonies, and they're really ancient. It's not new shit. It's ancient. But right before she passed away, for the first time in history, it was the globe. It was Earth. And I remember sitting there watching it on the live, and I was like, damn, I love gemstones. So I'm like, well, shit, what they gonna bring out this time? This is why I'm watching. I haven't ever seen like diamonds and emeralds that big. They brought out the globe of Earth. I was like, hold on. This this something else. Then they lit up the lights like they do every year, but this year the lights was 3 strands of DNA. I was like, wait a minute. And then when she got ready to do the rest of the ceremony, it was a black woman, an athlete. I don't know what country she was from. But she did the exchange and she handed her the mantle, basically. She handed her the torch to carry. And I was like, why black women keep coming up in these ceremonies? What's the significance of that? I mean, who would have ever thought that Meghan Markle would have been a part of the royal family? Because us black and brown folks, we've been out the picture for a long time. We was the royal family at one point in time. So I was like, something going on. And whatever it is, it's a big enough deal to where they was like, we need to mix our bloodline with a black woman. You know? So when she turned around, I saw Baphomet on the front of her shirt. And I was like, oh, started to make more sense. Now, if you don't study the occult, a lot of these things will go over your head. This is why they tell you not to do it. I have never found it to be harmful. Anybody that I have ever taught, did master classes with, I've been doing covens since 2021. Nobody has never had a negative experience from anything that I have done. I have worked with the 72 demons of Goetia, and I have mastered many of them. They do not control me. Anybody that knows me personally will tell you how in control of myself I am. I've already walked the path. I've already did the tunnels of Set. I've already studied ancient Kemet to the point where I was going through initiations in my dreams at the pyramids of Giza and the pyramid here in Memphis. That's a whole other story. Because remember, I said, as within, so without. So, it's not coincidental. Nothing is coincidental in my life nor yours. It's just up to you to connect these dots. We become dangerous when we start to second guess what spirit is showing us. It is dangerous to second guess that. So, but I told everybody, when the veil is down and when the stargates are being activated, pay attention to the countries that are involved in wars. They all have inherited stargates, and those stargates are opening now. That means that the chakras inside of you are opening and vibrating different. And this is why now when you do something that's fucked up, it almost like it's an immediate reaction after that. You could think one fucked up thought and then something negative happens in your life. Like, it's that fast now, where it's like, look, we gave y'all a time out when y'all had lockdowns. Now you need to be in control of yourself by now. Like in the 90s, I miss the 90s. Cause we could do all types of fucked up shit and it wasn't hardly no repercussions. I miss the 80s. It was just like the Wild Wild West every day. But the level of accountability that is required of us is higher. So like, we can't make excuses. We can't not be accountable. And a lot of us, because we're autistic and ADHD, we have a sensitivity to rejection, to any perceived rejection, any perceived criticism. That's by design as well. It's a gift when you learn how to use it, but the purpose of it is to keep you from being refined. Whether the criticism is coming from your children or somebody else, or somebody like a lot of us can't even really be real with ourselves and in our relationships, friendships, partnerships, and family, because there is this fear of rejection, because the trauma haven't been healed yet. The wound is still raw. So if you can't be course corrected by anybody other than yourself, but there are parts of you that you are unaware of because you haven't done enough shadow work to be aware of those parts of you, like, how the hell you go do anything that's going to change the shit that we see happening in the world? You're not going to be able to. And that was the whole purpose. So fast forward to after the queen did what she did, which basically said, okay, all of the inhabitants of Earth is now free play buffet for you interdimensionals. We keeping our end of the agreement, right? So now They just all willy-nilly and shit in the sky, just hanging out and shit. They don't even be cloaking half of the time. They at least be cloaking a cloud or something. Sometimes they pretend to be airplanes, and you will see the airplane shapeshift and stuff like that. But I mean, now they just like out all willy-nilly, like it ain't no consequences, and it kind of isn't. We're existing in primordial waters right now, where right and wrong is just only a matter of your own perception. But when Aleister Crowley talked about do as thou wilt, like that's what they operate by, that's what they believe. So that's why they don't believe that there is karmic retribution for the things that they do to the small people, to the people who are unaware, to the people who don't know, to the people who don't know who they are. And so religion bound our spiritual gifts. It blinded seers. It put a veil over the eyes so that we could not see. And then they made sure that things would happen throughout your life to make you doubt yourself. So it was like, okay, we've done all of that, but people are still breaking free of illusions. So then they was like, well, we need to go ahead and open Pandora's box. So we're going to go ahead and create quantum computers so that we can create artificial intelligence so that they won't be able to tell what's real and what's not. That way, if somebody showed them a video of fairy, they'd be like, that's just AI. So if somebody showed them a video of a UFO, oh, that's just AI. So if somebody showed them a video of a mermaid coming out of the ocean with two fish in her hand, that must be AI. This is why they did this. If somebody show a video of a duende trying to snatch a kid, that's just AI. And so it's really dangerous because it's almost like gaslighting the collective of people who are going through awakening to make you think that you're crazy, or to cause you to not be able to tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. And this is why intuition training is so important right now. And the best way for you to do intuition training is a lot of ways, but one of the main ways is for you to know your human design. Because when you know your human design, you know whether which one of your chakras is defined and which one of your chakras is undefined. When you have undefined chakras, that means that they're open to being influenced by external things. When you have defined chakras, it means that they're not um they can't be easily manipulated by external things. So like for me, the way my chakras is set up, it makes sense why I can do the things that I do. So that's one thing that you could learn about yourself is your human design. I think I still have a few human design reading spaces open. At some point, I'm gonna stop doing them because it takes a lot. I send you 100 pages of information all about you, telling you the best places to live, the astrocartography, the best places to eat. I mean, because it's a mix of Chinese metaphysics, Kabbalah, astrology, numerology, chakras, the ancient Hindu mysticism system, which has more chakras on it. And it includes a lot of information around genetic trauma as well. So, my specific genetic trauma is guilt. So all throughout my life, that has been a consistent thing that I have dealt with. And whenever I would try to move sovereign, be authentic, say no, and stop helping people out of their problems, I would be accused of being selfish. And then I would feel guilty and then I would help them anyway. When I found out that that was my specific genetic trauma assigned to me, it made a lot of shit make sense. And it actually helped me to heal that. And I was finally able to just go no contact with people who did not respect my boundaries. And it didn't matter who they was, family, whoever, whatever. One of the hardest things for somebody who is codependent, and my trauma response is to fawn. So I try to people please. I try to make things better. I try to be the peacemaker. You know what I'm saying? I try to repair things. I don't like people to be mad at me. I'm sensitive to shit like that. And so for me to heal that, it required me to study all of these things that I'm talking about. So when you know these things about yourself, you know the God that's within you, the goddess that's within you. If you don't know that, because God is omnipotent and omnipresent, which means that exists inside of you, right? We never really needed something outside of us because we are the temple. We are the third temple. Um, so fast forward to the lockdowns with the viruses. Those viruses led me to specific galaxies. So when we kept hearing about Delta, Delta is a brainwave frequency, but Delta is also a star system. The number that's assigned to that star system was being assigned to different strands of the mutations of the virus, which means that virus was actually alien. It was not something that was of Earth origins. I'm not going to say no more about that here. That's on my Patreon. So, the intergalactic war that we're experiencing right now um, is very real. It's happening. The solar flares, if you watch the sun, it's a website, we can go and watch it. I have screenshots of huge motherships coming out of the sun. The sun is a portal. Now, the black sun that's within the real sun is the portal that they use to travel in and out of to come into this dimension. Um, so with the solar flares, we've been having like really big solar flares lately, you know. And so with that, it's causing mutations inside of us. So if your appetite is changing, I know for me, I barely have an appetite. A lot of times I'm eating because I know I need to, not so much so because I feel like I just have to. That's the shift that's occurring. This is why you want to know your body so well, where you know what's happening with you. When you start sleeping a lot, doctors will tell you it's because you're depressed. Okay, that's one portion. But what's happening spiritually and metaphysically? Spiritually and metaphysically, when you're going through a lot of mutations within your body, you need to sleep more so that those mutations can take place, because your brain needs to be in a delta state frequency, which is the sleep frequency, for certain upgrades to happen inside the light body, which is the fascia, the connective tissue. For those of us who have connective tissue disorders or autoimmune diseases or are empaths or sensitive to energy, for those of us who are going through perimenopause, what happens is your ligaments, your tendons, muscle mass loss, weakening of bones. On a physical level, yeah, that's what's happening. But on a metaphysical, spiritual level, our biochemistry is shifting and changing. So I want y'all to see what I'm saying is nothing is ever one thing. It's always a spiritual undercurrent of everything happening physically. Now, I check all of those boxes. I fit into every box right now. So I am extremely intuitive at this moment in time. But I physically am not as strong as I would like to be. So you can't have it all. You don't you gotta sacrifice something for something else. That's just the way it works in this reality. You gotta give something to receive something. Um, so fast forward to El Nino. El Nino was making a comeback. El, which means God. So this connects to Elohim. Elohim is not one God, it's a whole lot of them. Okay? The magnetic sphere around Mama Earth is changing. So much is changing at one time because she's going through mutations as well. So, with these mutations that we're going through, you are going to have to be more disciplined in what you do. This is if you want to be a part of the solution. Now, if you're okay with being a part of the problem and keeping the illusion up, it's up to you if you want to pop the blue pill. It's no judgment. But if you want to be a part of the solution, discipline is going to be the key. Discipline yourself to do what you know you're supposed to be doing. I know it's hard. I know it'll be a lot going on. And a lot of times we say, well, I don't have enough time. That's not true, because a lot of us spend a lot of time on social media. So we do have the time. Our time management just may need some adjusting. If you are neurodivergent like I am, procrastination is the issue. It's not always me being tired. Sometimes I'm just procrastinating and it irritates the hell out of me Because one moment you feeling like this powerful supernatural being who probably should be a character in Marvel, and then the next moment you feel like a fucking sloth in a bomb. And you just like so consistency is key, but don't expect yourself to be as productive from one day to the other. It's gonna come and move in waves, and that's okay. The key is not to judge it. Exactly, me too. Procrastination, all of these things. This is why you want to master your demons. Procrastination can be used to benefit you. So let me do this puzzle, y'all, and I'm gonna give y'all a few more minutes before I get off of here. So it can also benefit you, and y'all keep liking the live. I appreciate y'all for that. It definitely helps me, and it will help more people to find me as well. But with procrastination, you want to turn anything that's negative in something that's positive. So if you are procrastinating on something, maybe in that moment you could do something else that's beneficial for you. Maybe in that moment you could do some breath work. You see what I'm saying? You don't have to, if you procrastinated on a chore and you like, well, if I'm gonna be sitting here anyway, I might as well do some breath work. These things are so basic but so imperative right now. So imperative right now. And we're the first generation since Atlantis, really, we're the first generation to experience these low megahertz electromagnetic frequencies that the technology is being used through. The way our body is set up, our body is an electromagnetic quantum processor. The body, the mind, body, soul is an electromagnetic quantum processor. The brain is a quantum computer, and your fascia is the internet. It moves faster than internet. So when something triggers you emotionally, your fascia holds the memory of that moment in a certain area of your body, depending on what it is. I have a map. I'm probably going to release that map on my Patreon really soon, where you can connect specific body parts to certain emotions. So a great example would be kidneys. Kidneys has a yin and a yang. Any organ that has two is yin and yang, right? So kidneys actually is the seat of our willpower. So our body is not used to being under this much stress. Just existing is stressful because of the invisible waves that's moving through our house, everywhere we go, because Wi-Fi everywhere. It's pretty much everywhere now. Um, we're the first generation to experience that, and we're sensitive to that. So all sickness is not because you caught a cold from somebody. Sometimes it's just your body responding to the toxic soup that we're swimming in. We're the very first generation on this planet to experience this, because in Tartarian, we were using free energy. We were using bells, sacred geometry, copper, architecture to be able to transmit energy. What we doing right now is like, it's like the ghetto way of doing it, because they don't want to allow us to have free energy. So to avoid us, because if we started doing what we did in Tartarius, you see what I'm saying? It would benefit us, right? So we don't have to be doing it like this. We don't have to be swimming in toxic soup. But the technology, which they credit to Tesla, but it was many that came before Tesla that figured that out. They don't want us to have it, because that would have a positive impact on us as a collective. Okay, so since we're the first generation to experience this, even the baby boomers, they didn't have to live through this their whole life. Gen X is the first generation where we remember the old world and experienced it, and we were the bridge to the new world. So basically, like, we've been under assault through the food and through the technology and through the subliminal programming, through the music and entertainment our whole lives. We're the first generation. That's the X marks the spot. Okay? We were a generation where all of these things started. There's something special about Gen X. Yes, we had our own traumas. Yes, our millennial children got shit going on. Gen Alpha, Gen Z. Yes. For those of us who are old enough to have grandkids like I am, yes, like we see it. But they are mirrors to the shit that we need to heal. So it's even beauty in that, right? So now that we're the first generation to experience this, what is going to happen is the same thing that happened with sickle cell. So with me having sickle cell, the spiritual meaning of having sickle cell, first of all, in a past life, I existed during a time where there was famine and malaria. So my body mutated to protect me from what was happening. And I incarnated into this lifetime with that because of that past life experience. So what is being called a dis-ease is actually transmutation of cellular metamorphosis that occurred to protect me. Yes, it causes pain, it causes organ failure, and so many other things, but it was created to protect me. So there will be new diseases that we're going to continue to learn about because our body is mutating to help us to get through what we're experiencing now. You got sickle cell too, Ashe. You know, I had never met another sickle cell patient who was into spiritual shit. I'm gonna make sure that I follow you, okay? You make sure you follow me too. There's people with sickle cell are very powerful. Most people with sickle cell are still trapped in the psychological plantation called religion, which means to bind, bind. It's in the definition. Um, we're real powerful, especially when we're in crises and in pain. We're real powerful. Anybody who has to experience the amount of pain that we have to experience, there's a trade-off. Okay, I want you to know that. That's for any illness. There's a trade-off. It's something spiritually about you that is very powerful, where the prison planet felt like you needed to have something physically as an ailment to slow you down. That was the goal. That was the goal. So with these new diseases, it's mutation so that we are able to not just survive this, but to it's gonna unlock what they call junk DNA, which is really our immortality. And our immortality inside of us, there are guardians inside of us that protect our genetic information. So even though they have a lot of genetic information, a lot of it they do not have. It protects us. Okay. Um, do breath work. Remember what I said the next time you get triggered. Don't let people trigger you into activating the old timeline. I'm serious. Men, I feel like this is harder for y'all than for us because y'all were psychologically put in a position to be leaders, but y'all were not given the tools to be able to lead. And men have prefrontal cortex brain damage. And if you are a darker race man, it's even worse because you have had to exist in a system that was built to suppress you. And y'all have a lot of fear and a lot of rage and a lot of resentment built up inside of y'all. I have compassion for men, even though men have hurt me. I have compassion for them. I am a goddess of compassion. I'm a goddess of love. I am a dark goddess as well. I'm a lot of different things. But when I say that, I mean behind any negative thing, I can see the wound that created that negative behavior. And I can see it in real time. My heart go out to men because a lot of men are feeling inadequate right now. They don't feel like with what's happening with the economy, they made it seem like men measure of how good of a man they are is based on how much money he can make. So with what's happening with the economy and jobs being taken by AI and jobs getting harder to get, a lot of men who rely on the old programming of the patriarchy through the ego to feel like a man, that's being destroyed. They're going through a collective ego death. And it seems like it's harming them, but it's really not. It's really here to purify them, to turn them into the best version of themselves. It's not just gonna happen. There are rules to this and things that you must do for it to happen. But that's what the purpose in the economy crashing is to crash men's identity of self. But that identity of self was created by the patriarchy and it needs to die because a lot of men, they're starving for love and don't know how to get it. I hope that makes sense. And a lot of women have been empowered to where they're like, I'm not going to accept anything that is beneath what I deserve. So we're seeing right now for the first time, people are not getting married. That's not a goal. It's not a goal for women to have children anymore. A lot of people have just accepted being single, and I prefer it this way because partnerships is just too messy. This is social engineering to keep us from procreating. Remember, relationships is the highest form of alchemy, right? And so this is why I wrote two ebooks. The ebooks, a lot of people's approach to healing love attachment and to be able to be in healthy relationships, a lot of people approach is psychology alone. My approach combines shadow work, astrology, psychology, numerology, mantras, and affirmations, and I give you scripts because a lot of times we don't know what to say in certain situations. So I give you scripts so that you, because our words is what activate timelines that are collapsing. As long as they can keep us triggered and reacting, a reactor and a creator is the same thing. It's just one is moving in reverse. That's why they have the same letters. Those two words are anagrams of each other. Anagrams always reveal secrets. Etymology reveals secrets. This is why I study words. So if they keep us reacting, what that does is it feeds the archonic energetic parasites and that helps to keep us in a simulated reality where hatred is the main frequency that's moving across the planet instead of love. So having scripts and knowing exactly what to say so that you could neutralize a situation. And everybody be talking about how to be powerful and how to do this spell and how to do Reiki and how to manifest this and do that. And I'm like, it's simple shit. How do you act when you triggered? How do you act when you're angry? How do you act when you're sad? How do you act when you feel hopeless? What do you say? That's where the power is. The power is in that. So I went really deep in that book. I've been in a relationship for 11 years with my partner, and we have been through a lot of things. So this is, I'm not writing this as someone, a lot of people that give out this information, it's like, but where your relationship at? I haven't seen your relationship as a testament to what you're teaching, even though what they're teaching might make sense and be solid. So because I have access to the Akashic records, I went into the Akashic records and I wanted these books to help people to open the portion of their Akashic records that dictates their soul contract and the type of energy that you attract as a partner. So whether you're already in a relationship, single, or in a situationship, or poly, or it don't matter what you is. It don't matter what you identify as gender wise. It don't even matter your spiritual belief system because it's not a specific spiritual belief system because I use every pantheon as lessons. I use gods and goddesses as archetypes. So we all have archetypes. Everybody. When you don't know none of this stuff about yourself, you're putting a target on your back because we're in the middle of spiritual warfare. This is the worst time to not know shit about yourself. So that's in those ebooks. Those ebooks are well worth $100, and they're $10 right now. So I recommend to get them because I'm thinking about shutting down my website. I'm thinking about going through a whole reset. just because I'm keeping my finger on the pulse of the shit that's happening in the world right now. Um, so I would recommend that if you want to if you want to learn how to operate in dark feminine energy, especially if you're single and you even open to dating as a woman, you need to know what dark feminine energy is and how to embody that. Because y'all see the shit that women are going through. Like women getting stabbed and snatched in broad daylight. It's wild out there in the streets. So you want to know how to protect yourself. Now, this wasn't created because I read somebody's book and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Let me just take it and use it. No, this is from personal experiences. My daughter was caught in the middle of a drive-by, and because of what I have taught her and because of the workings that I do, she said the bullets, one of the bullets went through her bag of food that she was holding in her hand, but she was like, all the bullets just kept going around me. And she immediately called me and was like, Mom, she was like, what you do? And I was like, some shit popped off. She was like, yeah. And I was like, I already had taken care of it. So, I have so many stories like this on my YouTube. I'm not gonna get into all the stories, but like I bring receipts, what I'm saying, real world experiences for the things that I teach. A lot of people coming into the spiritual community now, like they're really good at getting big followings and stuff and getting on platforms to spread their word. Y'all not gonna see me on a lot of people's platforms. You know what I'm saying? You just not. And the very few people that you see me with, it's because they're people who have shown themselves to me to be pure souls. I don't have time for that. Like, I refuse to let my energy be mingled with, I'm not doing it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing it. I'm not here for that. I done died twice. I done been through way too much. 15 surgeries. Got another one coming up. Like, I done been through a lot of shit. So, like, I'm not going to play like that. My life is precious. My time is precious. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I do have those resources. If you in a tight spot financially, I got free stuff. Just go to my website. You will get a 90-second reset so that you can start resetting your nervous system. If you use it every day, it's going to accumulate and then it's going to be better for you. You'll be able to embody those energies. And then when you step into a simulation, because we're Sims, y'all. This is not the real world. What be happening in my dreams is more real than what's happening now. So when you step into a simulation and you're dealing with an NPC or you're dealing with a loved one who is unaware of their own inner demons and don't have control of their inner demons, they're gonna be coming for you. They are. It's not personal. It don't mean that we don't love each other. This is just what we came here to experience. Earth is a hell dimension that can be transmuted into a heaven dimension. That's the beauty of Earth. It is a planet of transmutation and alchemy. It is a school. That's why we come here. Um, the other thing is this that I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna leave y'all on one more because I know I've said a lot, but a lot of this I get buried in the algorithm, so I'm not easy to find. You know what I'm saying? I like that though, because I prefer to have people who resonate than have a bunch of people and they not with it. You know, but man, let me tell you, about 7 years ago, I was watching an old Carl Sagan video. I'm from Memphis, y'all. The country sometimes slip out, but I'm trying here. Um, I was watching an old Carl Sagan video, and oh, okay, you lost me. See what I'm talking about? Yeah, that be happening to a lot of people. I was watching an old Carl Sagan video, and he was talking about how Earth within the Milky Way was located in the Orion arm of the Milky Way. I went and looked it up, and it said that we were in the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way. But I remember so clearly us being in the Orion arm of the Milky Way. This was like this is the type of shit. I made straight A's all through school. I had a 4.0 GPA all through school. It didn't matter. Like, I was in the middle of the crack epidemic. When I say the middle, I mean the middle. Stepping over crackheads just to get home and get in the house. shootouts, people getting stabbed, robbed. And I made straight A's through all of that shit. Graduated, top of my class, honors, could have went to any college, got scholarships. Like I was so into knowledge and learning. Um, so I knew that we were in Orion Arm in the Milky Way. This was mind fucking me. I was like, wait, hold up. Every website, every book at the library I looked in said that Earth was located in the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way. I was like, no fucking way. This is crazy. Carl Sagan was talking about this back in the 70s. He's just one of the many. So I went into the Akashic Library to see what happened. Because that's a Mandela effect that a lot of people don't talk about. Most of us know about Bernstein Bears. Sinbad played in the movie where he was a genie. Hell, he don't even fucking remember playing in the movie. That's because the version of Sinbad we have on this earth is not the same version of Sinbad we had on the other earth. Like this should really be happening. You know, we're moving from one state of existence to another based on our consciousness and how they're using technology. But anyway, nobody was talking about this Mandela effect. I found one lady who was talking about it and she noticed it as well. So when I went into the Akashic Library with the question of, you can do this in meditation, with the question of why did we move from the Orion arm to the Sagittarius arm? And the reason that Earth was moved is because an extinction level event was set to happen before a lot of us reached our highest potential. And so we were moved as a form of protection. And I think that this move happened in 2012 and it aligns with the Mayan calendar. It aligns with the Hopi prophecy and many other indigenous cultures. It aligns with a lot of what they talked about. So Earth was repositioned because the version of Earth that we used to be on in Orion, it no longer exists. We was wiped out. So it's almost like all of us died, but through our the ascended masters, the Galactic Federation, the Guardians, through they all worked together, and we were transported to this version of Earth that we're on now. And this is why the moon looks different. The crescent moon is not on the same side it always was. About a month or two ago, the crescent was at the bottom of the moon, which it ain't been like that in our lifetime. I want to say maybe ancient Samaria was the last time that the moon even looked like that. So maybe we've been moved before. But this is why we were relocated. This is why now we see two suns. This is why we see planets and shit that we're not supposed to be seeing. This is why NASA reported that we would have two moons in 2025. This is why when eclipses happen, weird shit be going on the ground, like the shadows and stuff on the ground. Like it's so many things happening where we can tell this is not the same Earth we always been on. The trees will wave at you and shit now. Trees be rubbing people's shoulder when they be just going for their walks and shit. Like this shit has become normal. And it's because we're on this different version of Earth and it's called the bifurcation. If you want to look deeper into that. And I have this information on my Patreon as well. Um, so that means that we're really fucking important. That means that we matter. And the more that you matter, the more you're going to have things happen in your life to make you question why you're here and what your purpose is. That is a clear sign that you matter. So I know that we've probably been told and think that you should feel like hot shit every time you wake up, and that you important and that you the main character at all times. No, it comes in waves. Anybody that say that they always feel like that, they probably lie. It comes in waves. It comes and goes. And that's normal. Don't judge yourself. When you're going through the halls of a mentee, which in the Bible is called the days of judgment, right? So, what that basically means is that every vibration we put off, every communication we broadcast, every word we say, it's going to reverberate through the atmosphere and it's going to attract something back to us. That's what all of that really means. So the main thing to do is to resist judging yourself and even others. And it don't mean that you don't call shit like you see it. You can see it, but you don't have to allow yourself to be negatively emotionally charged about what you're seeing. Learning how to exist in a state of neutrality and non-judgment is going to speed up your spiritual awakening process. Ascension requires descension. You're not just gonna be up, 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 up. No, you have to descend. You have to go down and you have to clear the lower chakras. You have to get in touch with your shadow self. If you needy, if you bitchy, if you an asshole sometimes, if you be mean to the kids just because you annoyed and irritated about some shit, if you ruminate on shit that happened with people and you have a lot of negative shit floating through your mind, like it's no judgment. It is what it is. Them some of the things that I notice about myself. And I'm gonna work on it and I'm gonna work on it every day. We have to be accountable for the role that we play. Ain't nobody getting no hall passes no more. We ain't getting no hall passes no more. So that we can shift what's happening on the planet. But you have to be able to be accountable. All right. So I got a show coming up. Let me let y'all know what's coming up. I got a show coming up with Dr. Blind. He's the author of The Functionary. That was one of the books on Bobby Hemmings' recommendation list. We're going to do a show on Father's Day, and Father's Day happens to be on the same day. Is it the same day? Yeah, the summer solstice is the same day as Father's Day. Now, the sun typically in most mythology represents masculine energy. So, for the summer solstice to be on Father's Day, that's significant. That means that a lot of healing is being made available to men and to the masculine, not just men, but to masculine energy. The consciousness of masculine energy is being healed by this summer solstice. So it is time for us to heal. I know people be talking about just, it's a lot of negative stuff about men on the internet now, and I get it. They do shit that's terrible. They do. We all have done things that are terrible. Um, but healing is supposed to happen, and it's gonna happen. So just holding space for that, not having to be super negative, but letting shit be what it is. And as a woman who is a goddess of love, and it was Prince who told me that because I didn't know. I knew something was different about me, but I didn't know which goddesses were my matrons. He came to me in a dream right before he passed and told me, and it made it make sense to me. I was like, no wonder I'm so compassionate. I feel compassion for people, just at a level that most people have never experienced. And this is why I don't have a lot of friends. I don't have a lot of people that I mess with in my inner circle. As much as I love people, I don't. Um, because a lot of people will take advantage of that compassion and they'll use it and see it as a weakness. It's because they hadn't healed themselves yet. It's not really a personal thing and it's not intentional. But I'm gonna do that show with him, and I'm not sure exactly what he want to talk about, but he's one of the elders in the conscious community. He's someone that grew up. He's gonna tell some of the stories, but like some of the funk music and the psychedelic music and the disco music that we love, like he grew up around them, went to school with them. He grew up with Bobby Hemming, around, was around during the time he was lecturing, and Delbert Blair, so many other greats, C. Freeman L. And so he was collecting the information and putting the information. He's like a scribe. And he broke down etymology and syntax and ebonics, and he revealed the frequencies behind some of the words that we use. And so he's going to be coming on the show. And also, I have an album I released. It's called Protecting My Peace. I have songs for men and for women on there. I channeled my inner masculine and wrote a song. It's called Divine Masculine if you look it up on YouTube, but it's streaming on all platforms. That music, if you just sit and listen to those words, that shit's so deep. Like if it don't heal something in you or activate something in you, I will really be surprised and shocked. That was really hard to do with me dealing with thyroid cancer. Some days I lose my voice. So for me to be able to do that right now, that was a real strong form of alchemy that I took myself through to be able to do that. And it was hard. It took me almost 2 years, but the lyrics and everything is very intentionally written. And I'm gonna say this too, because a lot of people are like, well, I'm hearing a lot of AI music, and I miss the just regular music, and I get that. But if we don't learn how to master this technology, it will become our masters. And so the reason that I use it to make beats for me, because I have to bebop and make my beats and stuff. And it's not easy. It's not, if you're doing it as an actual artist, it still requires a lot of work. You got to know what instruments, what progressions, what melodies, what harmonies go. It was a lot of work to do that part. But because I lose my voice, sometimes I wasn't able to record, and so I would be able to record just a sample of my voice and still produce the whole song. So it's not the AI shit where I'm like, write a song about being a happy ass dog. Like it wasn't that. Those lyrics are very intentional. And out of the thousands of readings that I've done, I took what a lot of people was going through and the breakthroughs that they wanted to have, and I embedded it into the lyrics. So it is very healing. I wrote a song for ancestors as well. Um, I don't know if y'all gonna be able to hear it. I might play that ancestor song as we go out, because I need y'all to know that a lot of Dr. Blind texting me now. Let me give him a call. But a lot of the intergalactic shit that we see happening, those are our ancestors too. They not just ancestors. Exactly. Yeah. They not just ancestors from that you can trace back in your lineage. Some of our ancestors, they not incarnated into human bodies no more. They're intergalactic. And so I'm saying that because I need y'all to remember this, because when this shit started popping off, and when this shit started getting a lot worse than what it is now, y'all gonna need to be able to remember who you are.